we had filmmaker Ty West sitting on the same couch, and somewhere within the interview, or maybe the radio interview, he said he could either do two things for a job. He could be a filmmaker, or he could be a busboy.
I love it.
What is that for you? I mean, you're just now coming into this thing where you feel like this is your calling.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely have very few skills that outside of filmmaking or working in some capacity in the film industry, probably an assistant, like secretarial, you know, running an office, but I can't stand that. Like an office outside the film business, I probably couldn't stand running an office, and it's very hectic. But yeah, I have very, very few skills, and they wouldn't pay very well, you know? And, you know, just outside of the film business, or teaching English.
Well, you were a journalist for a while, right?
Yeah.
Was that after the acting?
Yeah, that was after the acting. Yeah, I did freelance journalism, and that was interesting. I did like more like cultural topics. You know, meeting different artists, or you know, school like community topics like schools and districts and private schools. So I was like, it was nice to really get in depth with people and get to know a certain person I was interviewing or a subject matter. That helped in other aspects of my writing.
Well, you also mentioned too, I think, that once you saw like cables on the ground and it just reminded you of childhood, because you're just like, I spent so much time on the set. So from that knowledge, having spent all this time on the set, sometimes you said even more so than being at home, what would you advise other actors, crew members, aspiring directors about handling themselves on set, despite being good and doing their job as they're supposed to?
You mean as a director, handling themselves on the set?
Yeah, director, and also with actors. What are some of the things that maybe people don't know, aside from knowing your lines and showing up on time and things like that? What are some of the things that you've learned that are outside of people's general duties, but that are essential to getting that next job?
Yeah. Well, essential to getting the next job, I wouldn't, that would be hard to comment on, but, well, actually, that's not true. I think my parents definitely taught me this, and then I kind of learned this myself, being part of the crew. If you're in the higher up positions, treat your crew well, because I've been treated badly by higher ups, producers, some directors for sure. I guess those are the only really two people that can treat you a certain way on a set. Well, no, that's not true. But the crew, if you have a good relationship with the crew, which my mother always maintained, she was a production designer first, and then she transitioned into producing, but she was always kind of, even as a production designer, you are crew, even though you're head of a department, you're still the crew. And so because she came from that and I grew up with her, I always felt like I was part of the crew. And my father is really amazing with his crew. Polite, respectful, thankful. He doesn't feel like a movie can get made without them, which we all need. I mean, that's the truth. So, and then setting, I just recently saw an interview with, Jeff Bridges was interviewed by a documentarian that's making a documentary about my dad, and he was asked about what it's like to be on a set with Peter Bogdanovich, and he said he always makes it very peaceful and a nice environment to be in.
Okay.
And Jeff was going on and on about this and how important it is to set the vibe, I guess you would say, for the whole shoot. Because people work their butts off, and the last thing you need, my dad's not a screamer. Unless this is the thing, he will scream, but it'll be under absolutely necessary reason why he's screaming. I've only heard him do it like once or twice.
Wow.
And everybody kind of snapped to attention because he doesn't do it. And nobody felt abused because it was for a purpose, you know?
Okay.
And a lot of times somebody will yell if like a really big mistake happens, more because it's like, you know, but my father's just not like that. So that creating that kind of environment, when Jeff was talking about it, I was listening to the interview because I just wanted to see Jeff, so I came. I was like, oh, I did that same thing without remembering exactly that's what my father does. But thinking back, yes, he did. I was like, oh, I said that. Like, thanking the crew, you know, making the actors feel comfortable between setups or between takes. Hence, when they do their they do their take, they're comfortable. So I think that helps, because then you don't get a reputation of being, you know, horrible on set and a screamer and difficult to work with. Like, I would never want anybody to say I was difficult to work with. I think I'm tough and I'm, you know, hard worker, but difficult to work with would be, I would hate to have that.
For an actor, what do you think some of the things are that they should remember, aside from the obvious things? But what are some of the unspoken things that are, you know, maybe how to treat crew, or...
Yeah, I think if they don't, they need to respect the crew and thank them. And maybe, you know, like I heard that, I heard that Reese Witherspoon got massages for her whole crew once. I think that it was Reese. Or something in that vein, where she gave a gift to the whole crew. I mean, that's amazing. Come on. Really cool. I mean, they're never going to forget that.
Yeah.
Something like that, you know, if you have the means to do something like that. If you don't, if you're, you know, you got a bit part, or, you know, you can't do something like that, then, you know, thanking them or writing a note to somebody who did something nice, you know, and then listening too. As an actor, I think it's really important to listen. You know, listen to your director, listen to your other actors. I mean, I learned that in acting. Listening is like key, and I think a lot of actors who've trained would say, of course, that's obvious, but being able to, like, not just listen to the person who's directing you, but listen to the rest of the crew, be able to come on set and feel the vibe and know, like, maybe go up to somebody and say, hey man, how you doing, you know, for a second, like, you know, on the way to the set, like, you know.
So your demeanor on set, maybe being...
and not be cut off from everybody too, maybe, but for some people that's their process, that they need to isolate, you know.
That's true.
That some people that's the way they work. They're very intense, and I would respect an actor if that's what he needed. You know. So, and I would probably communicate with. Sorry to interrupt you. I'd probably communicate with the rest of my crew if I was director, and this was a process for one of my actors. And let's say he had the lead, or a very, like, maybe he had a supporting role that was like very intense. I would at least communicate with everybody. Look, this is his process. This is what he needs. Don't take it personally. Right. To the people that need to know.
Right.
You know?
Do you...
I think communication's key.
Would you say you're more introverted or extroverted?
Ooh.
In that sense? Because I think for a lot of introverts, they do need that internal time to be with themselves, whereas extroverts, of course, they feed off the energy of other people.
Yeah. I mean, I would say as a director, I was definitely more... It's hard to say. I didn't socialize. I was really... Like, when you're a director, there's so much stuff going on that you don't really have time to socialize. But when I did, I would definitely go out and chat with people. But I felt like, you know, my time was limited as far as how much free time I had, which is completely different than when I was crew. You have a lot of downtime sometimes, just waiting. Not so much with the gaffers and electricians and the grips, but the kind of the supporting area. There's supporting crew sometimes has a lot of downtime. You don't have a lot of that as a director, unless the setups, unless lighting takes a long time, you know. But then you might be rehearsing with your actors, or you can be busy. But when I did have time, I would chat.
You would?
A little bit, yeah. I wouldn't isolate.
Right.
You know, if I need quiet time, I would. I didn't have a trailer, but if I needed quiet time and there was maybe an area of a room I could go into, I would do that. But I didn't really need that.